Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Black Intellectualism Movement. I am so happy that you are tuning in tonight for another fantastic conversation. I am so excited to talk with you all tonight about something that I feel is an extremely important topic, especially as a citizen of Northeast Louisiana, the South, and a community that has dynamics that are very similar to the community where this lady is from. We actually connected on TikTok. I was so excited by what she was talking about, and the movement she was creating by just being really authentic to herself and authentic to her mission. And so I finally had the courage to reach out to her and ask her if she would come on the Black Intellectualism Movement, and she eagerly accepted the invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Miss Angelica Perkins-Waltom,
Yes.
aka Afro Angie, which
Thank you
I
so much
love.
for having me.
And you can actually find her on, I'll put the links in later. You can find her on TikTok as Afro Angie as well as on Instagram. I recommend you follow her because not only does she talk about the topics we'll be sharing tonight, but she also basically gives insight into how you too can start building this type of community. So many of you have already seen the flyers, you've already heard the conversation that we will be discussing, which is about the new Black Wall Street. Um, and it's been really exciting to hear this because when we think about Black Wall Street, of course, we think about Tulsa and what happened to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And as we continue to study Black history, we're also hearing about several other communities around the United States, Black communities that were, terrorized and destroyed, and even many Black communities that still exist today, but are struggling to remain afloat economically.
Right.
Um, Angelica is part of the New Generation movement to restore Black power to predominantly Black communities and to help us bloom and be successful. So
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and read her bio, and then we'll get right into the conversation. So, Angelica Perkins Walton, also known as Afro Angie, is an advocate for creativity. She is an activist and filmmaker with a passion for sharing our stories to inspire hope and uplift our communities. Her experience in social media taught her how to use her influence the right way and to lift as we climb. She hopes to shine for God's glory and put the spotlight on others as well. So, is there anything I left out? Anything else you want us to know?
I no, I think that's pretty much it. Yes, ma'am.
I am so excited to have Angelica here with us today, and we aren't going to waste a lot of time. We're going to get right into the conversation. So, the first question I'm going to ask you is who is responsible for the vision behind the new Black Wall Street of Pine Bluff?
That's a great question. So I know that I'm not the first person who has called Pine Bluff the new Black Wall Street. Um, but maybe I'm the first person who like put it on social media. So there are a couple of community leaders. One that comes to mind is Obafemi Kinsie Delele. He has created a what do you call it, catalog of Black businesses in the city of Pine Bluff. There's over 100, really over 110, I believe. But there's a website that I can share with you at a later time. We have a Black mayor. We have a public-private partnership that is bringing millions, I think like hundreds of millions, into the city for renovations. And so, as far as the vision behind it being a Black Wall Street, that's more of like the grassroots community initiative. But as far as who is leading the charge, I don't think you can just point to one person or one factor. Everybody's really working together to turn the city around.
I really love to hear that because a couple of reasons. Number one, when we talk about the element of unity, so often we hear people always run to the stereotype that Black people cannot stick together and work together. And I always feel like that's absolutely not true because that's the only way we could have survived enslavement and the Jim Crow era to get where we are today. But
Yes,
to
ma'am.
actually hear a person say that when it comes to how the New Black Wall Street movement came about, it's not just in the hands of one person, it's all of us working together. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. That's absolutely amazing. The second thing I was thinking about was how you talked about how you all have a $100 million plan that's going on to revitalize the community, right? And how those resources are basically very vital to helping to rebuild and turn the community around.
Yes,
And I think that one of the issues we often run into is that we'll have good ideas about how to make things happen, but as far as demanding the resources that we need, seeking those resources, sometimes that can be one of the biggest challenges. So
for
I
sure.
like that you said that.
Yes.
Okay. So my next question, we hear people say we've heard other communities as well talking about a new Black Wall Street.
Mhm.
So that's what's really cool is to hear this trending topic coming along, hearing other communities talk about the building of a new Black Wall Street. What are some qualities and characteristics that classify Pine Bluff as a Black Wall Street?
Yes, ma'am. That's a great question because I absolutely love seeing the movement as well. I don't think there needs to be just one. I think that wherever there's Black people, there needs to be a Black Wall Street for sure, right? However, I think that Pine Bluff is different in the sense that a lot of times as we speak about Black Wall Street and even Tulsa's Black Wall Street, it's a section of the town. But in Pine Bluff, I'm really referring to the entire city. We Black people happen to be the majority here. We are, in leadership in almost every position. Um, it's just so many different factors. We're in several different industries. But just to stop talking about Pine Bluff for a minute, what classifies I think any place as a Black Wall Street is having some sort of self sufficiency. So in Pine Bluff, we don't have a Black hotel, but we have several Black owned Airbnbs. We have a Black owned grocery store. We have Black food places, a Black beauty shop, Black what do you call it, auto repair services. We have so many different industries. Black entertainment. We have a Black owned skating rink. The bowling alley is Black owned. We have a couple of different nightclubs that are Black owned. There's Black farmers. I mean, there's like almost every industry. I think the two industries that I don't think that we have are a gas station and a bank. But almost every other industry that people need for their day-to-day expenses or, just their livelihood, you could pretty much shop Black. Now, I'm not going to say that, it's like a luxury experience. We're getting there, but of course, things take time in any community, but especially in the Black community, there's still a wealth gap and we have the resources, but there's always more resources that we could have. So of course they're not like, just super pristine everywhere you go, but I think that gives it character, that gives it the experience, and then you get to be a part of it. You get to watch it be built into that. But as far as like what it takes to have a Black Wall Street, I think is just to be able to circulate that Black dollar as much as possible, and we can do that here in Pine Bluff.
I love what you said about you like, everything is not necessarily luxury, but we are building that. We are
Yes,
establishing that. For so
yes,
many communities, that's it. Like the starting it is the
yes,
thing. We can
yes,
talk all day long about what it would be like or what it should be like in order to have these things, but until we actually get the wheels in motion, none of the talk even matters. It's the
right,
action that matters. You can't build from nothing, right? You have to have
right,
something to build on. So I love how you said everything isn't luxury, but this is why, in a sense, you've started getting those resources, started building, and have been working to enhance that experience. Look, but and the thing that immediately comes to mind to me is mentorship, right? So by at least knowing people that exist in each facet of business, you
right,
now give more opportunities to the children of Pine Bluff to
right.
realize I can literally do anything. There are people who look like me that are creating successful businesses in all different types of arenas. So I
Yes.
like that. That's cool.
Yeah. And we also
Okay.
have the HBCU as well. We have, I think, I don't know if it's Black owned, but almost all of our schools are predominantly Black. So they're getting to be taught by Black teachers, Black male teachers. They get to see Black principals. I mean, that point about the children being able to see themselves in every industry, from doctors to attorneys, that is 100% true.
I love that. I love that. And I was listening to you say, totally intrigued by you discussing a black owned grocery store as well, because I know that since I've been in my community on more than one occasion, we've heard the topic come up about the possibility of black owned grocery stores. And so I wanted to reiterate that Pine Bluff has kind of like a model that people can actually see what a black owned grocery store can be. So I think that's really cool as well.
Yes,
I love
ma'am.
it. I love it. So this is one of my questions. So there are a lot of people that say, why do we need a black owned Wall Street? We're not back in 1919 or 1910 where black people are facing the same issues. So
Right.
why is it necessary to coin these communities as a black Wall Street? So I wanted to throw that question to you. Why is a black Wall Street still important to the black community and society?
That's real. Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. Actually, my husband and I were just discussing this with some more community members last week. And I'm glad that you asked I'm glad that you mentioned society, because as we talk about Pine Bluff being a new Black Wall Street, that doesn't mean that no other races are welcome in Pine Bluff or that they will be discriminated if they come. It's just that we happen to have the majority, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because there is a wealth gap in America, and it's huge and it's getting wider every day, every year. In fact, by 2053, the average household wealth of a Black American family is supposed to be zero. And that is with us having degrees. That is with us making six-figure salaries. That's with us having Black owned businesses. Somehow our wealth gap is getting wider. And I think that's because we are not building as a community. I think that it's very necessary for us to be able to have access to the resources that our ancestors fought for. But I think that now that we have that, it's time for us to shift our focus from begging for a seat at somebody else's table to having a table of our own. And then we can invite other people to come and join us at our feast. You
You
know what
better
I mean?
preach, Afro Angie. Come on now. Come on. I love it. I absolutely love it. You better preach. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And most importantly, because it's really breaking the stigma that black communities cannot thrive.
Right,
And
right,
what I heard you say was Pine Bluff just happens to be predominantly black.
right,
Monroe just happens to be predominantly black. There are several other towns that outside of Monroe that just so happen to be predominantly black. That's not the way that people specifically aim for it to be. That's how it came to be.
right.
And so, with that in mind,
Yes,
you're saying that look, everybody is welcome, but these are
absolutely.
just the dynamics. We have majority white communities all over this country,
Right.
and find that a lot of them have access to more resources.
Mhm.
So we are looking at a community that is predominantly black and saying we want to make sure that you can come here and have resources available to you. And let me tell you something, honey. When you say, when you come here to the black community, everybody is welcome. That is really the nature of black people. We've
Absolutely.
been that way. We talk about our grandmas, our aunts, our uncles. That's how we are, right? So we
Right.
may as well start having access to the resources we need to really bring our community up to par. I don't
Right.
believe that we necessarily have to always express that you are welcome here, because that's kind of the nature of what a black community is. Even if
Absolutely.
we, honey, if we have one sweet potato, we'll cut it in half and share it with you, right? But we
Hello.
want to upgrade from just having a sweet potato to some sweet potato pies to sweet potato souffle.
Mhm.
So that everybody can have the experience that they deserve. I like
Absolutely.
that. You gave me the heebie-jeebies with that one. That's awesome. Is there anything, anything else? I didn't want to just overtake that, but that was amazing.
Oh no, I think that you're absolutely right. Like, we are by nature a very welcoming people, and so I'm glad. I don't really get too many comments on my TikTok, but every now and then people will say, "Why does everything have to be about race?" And it's like everything already is about race. Black
Yes,
people, Black Americans, and I say this as a Black American, so I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but we are at the bottom of almost every category
yes,
in this country, and I don't
yes,
think that we are inferior people, but I
yes,
think that other communities stick together. And so if something goes wrong, they have a cushion to fall back on. But we are programmed to get out, get away from each other, look down on each other. And so I'm basically just trying to say, look, other people, they support us, but everybody has to look out for themselves. So why don't we
Absolutely.
take this and look out for each other right here?
And I think the other part that we have to also understand is that it was by design historically for us
Oh
to feel
yes.
divided and to feel split up. And we still have so much emotional work to do to rid
Mhm.
ourselves of that mindset.
Yes, ma'am.
That we don't have a place among each other, that we cannot find success or see the beauty in each other. And
Yes.
so I think that this is so even visiting Pine Bluff, and we'll come back to that, is so healthy for other people, other Black travelers to see, because we need to see as well a healthy Black community that is building and thriving together, so we can understand that we are capable of moving forward. Whether you're
Yes.
going back to a diverse community or back to a community that's predominantly Black, you
Right.
can in fact work alongside people who look like you and experience peace, happiness, joy, and multiplicity. So I
Yes.
love when you say that. That's exciting.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is another really, really exciting question I had. A lot of times what you said a minute ago is every now and again you get those questions from people who will say, well, why does it have to be all Black, or why does it have to be promoted as Black, and all these other types of things.
Hmm.
And so my question is, and this is something I feel like I understand the answer to, but I feel like a lot of people don't. And as a
Okay.
woman who's sitting in the midst of this, hearing it from you is amazing. So, in what ways do you feel that Black Wall Street communities promote cross cultural unity?
Hmm. I think it's kind of like, so aside from activism, I love self-development. I love reading books about getting my mental state right, and
Yes,
just getting right spiritually. And
yes,
I learned a lot about activism from those books. One of the pretty much
absolutely,
basic points is you really can't love anybody else until you love yourself. And so I
absolutely.
feel like when it comes to crime, when it comes to the contributions that we make to the general society, when
Hmm.
it comes to just healthy relationships, interpersonal relationships, and the ways we view the world, once we see like, oh, I can make it, I can do okay, I can do all this, being a Black person in a Black community, I think that we'll be able to interact with the larger society as a whole in a much better
Yeah,
way. Like, for instance,
yeah,
I think whenever there's police brutality, God forbid, but if any more tragedies like that were to happen, we're not going to riot. We're going to turn to each other and figure out how we can help as a community, so
I
that we're
like
not,
that. I
excuse me,
like
we're not
that.
ruining anybody's business.
Hmm.
Instead, we're focusing on building more where we are. So it's like,
Oh.
once we're healthy as a community, we're more healthy for society in general.
Oh my God, this interview should have been in person, girl. I need to hug. You have moved. I mean, the component where you say, girl, in my feelings, let me gather it up. So that when we experience the unfortunate tragedies that we know are so prevalent in this country, we no
Right,
longer feel that we have to turn to, violence or frustration, or
right.
we know that we can turn to each other and say, how can we build? Because,
Yes.
as if we go back to the quote of Dr. King, when he says that what rioting what is the cries or voices of unknown people. I mean, of
Hmm.
people who feel they're unheard, right? And so
Right.
when if we don't have to look for other people to hear us if we
That's
can create this atmosphere of hearing each other and relatability and connectability. That is
yes.
so. Come on, yeah. You are preaching tonight. You are preaching tonight. And I love that you talk about basically when we become whole as individuals through
Yes.
the lens of which we see ourselves and connect with others, then we can go forward in other atmospheres
Yes.
and be able to be more productive.
Right.
It's so crazy because one of the components I've been working on and talking about is how the Black community has not been given a space for us to really deal with the traumas we've been through. And we
Right.
have to have a space where we can connect with each other and really be and deal with things we've been through, so we can
Right.
move forward in a healthy and productive way and really break a lot of the strongholds that still follow us after all of this time. And so
Right.
that's uh, mm, that was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. So, okay. So let's go to the next one. Um, how is a Black Wall Street community beneficial to Black children?
Mm.
So I'm gonna start with the first part of that first, and let's talk about that because I know I'm gonna want to hop in on that part.
Yeah, you talk about kids. Now I got to sit up in my seat because that's really why I do it. That's really
Yes.
why I do it.
When
So
we talk about the babies, we have to stand up, you
let
know.
me get together.
So what would you say about that? How is the Black Wall Street beneficial to our Black children?
Okay, so I gotta, give you guys a little bit of a backstory. So, my mom was actually born in Pine Bluff, but she was transported into the foster care system, and so that's how we ended up in a town called Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we didn't really know many Black people. Like, we were really taken in by white people, and that's why I love white people. And if a lot of people say that I sound like an Oreo, I love Black history, but I might not really sound like I'm down with the cause, but I am, right? But I say all that to say, because my mom was put into the foster care system, and because she was adopted and didn't know her family, she had a lot of traumas, and that affected how she raised us. And so I think that some part of me is so passionate about rebuilding the Black community because I'm longing for that family that I didn't have. And I'm longing for that family that my mom was removed from. So that's one part of it, probably a big part. But the second part is education. So, fortunately, I did have the experience of being raised in a cross-cultural society. That my school was very diverse. The education was very rigorous. Unfortunately, in communities like Pine Bluff, the education is not as bad as people think it is, but I do believe that I was blessed to have a better education. And that's not just because my school wasn't predominantly Black, it's because where people live affects the property taxes in the schools in the area. And on top of that, some people feel like I can just invest, but I don't have to be there. But you need people who are present and active and want to see the children win. And so whenever you have a thriving Black community and they're all hands on deck, they want to see the kids thrive. They're investing in the property taxes that will go to the schools so they can have better resources. It's just a win-win situation. And the kids don't have to feel like I'm not good for anything other than being part of the school to prison pipeline. They can see that they are loved. They can see they have potential. So that's honestly why I do all of this.
I want to go back to something you said that is so important for us to talk about. Number one, when you said, you talked about the experience of your mom being taken in Hot Springs, predominantly white community, and the love she received from, white community people that look like you, and how people sometimes react and wonder like how you can be two ways. And something I have to reiterate to people all the time is pro-Black does not mean anti-white.
At all.
What it means is that we recognize that there is a deficiency in society for ensuring that Black voices are heard. And so our mission is to ensure that our stories are shared and that we are given fair opportunities.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's so important to hear. And it's unfortunate that you have to justify that, but I understand it. I've been there in years past as well. I told you my hometown was a predominantly white community. And I was fortunate enough to go through an education system where we had a lot of resources. Yet I grew up in the poorest part of that community in the housing projects. Yep. So I think there's something else that we always have to talk about is the filter down economics that can happen. And once we understand how things work, we can then take that information and resource that information and those resources, and then bring them back to also help our community move forward in the way that they need to. So those experiences actually make you who they are. They give you the compassion, they give you the vision, they help you understand where there is a deficiency and give you the motivation to get up every day to ensure that the people and children you come in contact with are being given the same opportunity you were, but without having to leave the place where they live. So I wanted to express that because I completely understand how that comes about and how it feels for people to not really understand that. We don't have any control over where we're born, but we do have control over how we choose to move forward. And when we recognize things, that we choose to be active in resolving them. So I love that. I love that.
Yes. I'm glad we can relate on that because a lot of people, they'll be like, you don't sound, I'm like, I can't help that, but I love my people. I really love them.
I think we also have to move away from the mindset of believing that there's a particular sound that belongs to Black people. Like, we're not a
Yes.
monolith. We live
Yes.
everywhere. We have many different experiences. We have diverse backgrounds. I mean, unfortunately, Black folks were shipped and moved all over this country. And the wonderful thing about being a Black woman is that we, and a Black person in general, is that we adapt to whatever atmosphere we've in. We've seen it. We are in. We've seen this throughout history. That's one of the
Right.
things that makes our people so amazing, is that we're not only able to survive in the unfamiliar, but to thrive in the unfamiliar.
Yes,
And so
ma'am.
that doesn't have, it doesn't dictate who we are, right? What dictates who we are is how we choose to live each day. And
Yes.
so we have to continue to work to break down those stigmas across culture lines and within our own culture line, because we don't want the next generation of children to miss out on great learning and great opportunities because they have been conditioned to believe that Black looks a certain way. It
That's
does
good.
not. Black is
Yeah.
diverse, just like our skin tone, our fashion style, our texture, our personalities. Everything about us is diverse, and nothing
Right.
changes our experiences. Nothing's going to change the challenges we face in society. We just all come from different places, and
Right.
that's how it is. So I love that.
Yes.
If you are on, I just want to make this, if you're on TikTok and you were saying that you're hearing an echo, you can actually come over to YouTube, which is in the bio in my link. We're live right now. You can come over to Facebook, we're live. You can come over to Twitter or LinkedIn if you're hearing an echo, and stream in with us, get in on the conversation. We definitely want to hear from you. So was there anything else you wanted to say after that? Because that was really so awesome.
You did bring up a good point, like about how we are not a monolith, but another reason why it's dangerous for us to think that, we should sound or look a certain way, um, is because a lot of the culture that we associate with Black people has been hijacked.
Come on,
My
come
husband,
on. Preach, Queen.
Jamie, you are funny.
It's the truth, girl. Teach us today, Angie. Teach us, Angie. Go ahead.
No, but my husband, he is actually a rapper, and you guys can find his music on Spotify, on all platforms. It's Ty Shy, CHI. But one of the reasons that he started rapping again is because he grew up listening to rap. That's part of us. We have that rhythm. We're naturally poetic people. We're naturally creative. But
Yes.
and today we already know that a lot of the music executives have a huge investment portfolio in these prison systems. And
Mm-hmm.
so, of
Mm-hmm.
course, whenever they promote a rapper, and no disrespect to anybody's craft, because I know that there are people who have grown up in those real situations and they're
Right.
just expressing their pain. So I'm not trying to bash anyone, but it's very ironic how certain messaging does get
Mm-hmm.
pushed over other
Mm-hmm.
messaging, how
Mm-hmm.
certain standards of beauty get pushed over others. And
Mm-hmm.
that isn't coming from us. That's coming from execs who don't look like us. And it's
Mm-hmm.
another reason why I believe so strongly in Black ownership. So we can take back our narrative and our culture.
Come on. And you know what? What's so crazy is how much people actually don't realize it. But if we think about it, a lot of our music artists who talk about different and deeper contexts, a lot of times we don't see them promoted on the mainstream in the same way. They actually get brought to the forefront a lot of times by the support that we give and how we
Right,
continue to push them forward. But
right,
absolutely, they don't. And so what you say has so much truth to it. And then we get these stereotypical images of our people that actually don't reflect the core of who we really are. So I like that. I like that. That's so true. So I actually saw some of the questions I lifted right from based on your TikToks because you share such great information. So I was like, well, let me not reinvent the wheel, but bring to the public and a different population of people some things they may not have seen, as well as dig deep. Because, honey, sometimes those 60 minutes or 60 seconds or 3 minutes just don't give us enough, honey. So what are some programs? I remember this one in particular. I was so fascinated by it. What are some programs your community has developed to provide support for K through 12 children?
Yes, ma'am. So there was a new, well, it wasn't new, it was renovated, a community center. And they have recently just launched a boxing program, which is really good because you'll see a lot of people on my TikTok talk about the violence in Pine Bluff. I think it's over exaggerated, but it is there. I don't want to say that it's not there. And so it's good that that program is being created so that there's another avenue for these kids to like get their, frustrations out. There are so many different community organizations like the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. They have, I think, the gentleman. I don't want to misquote the program, but they work with young men and they host a ball. The Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated hosts a debutante, and they do things that teach young women how to carry themselves. My sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, also has the Arcanets. It's another like mentorship program. There's a new building called the Generator. They're teaching children tech innovations. Of course, you have the library, and they just offer a whole lot of different kinds of programs for the children. And even though you will hear certain things and certain like critiques about the school education, the community and the parents, oh, they love their kids. And so I wish that that was something that was shown a little bit more. But even if I can't list all of the community programs, the community shows up for these kids and they love the kids in Pine Bluff.
I love it. I love it. And I believe that that component is so important. I was sharing with you before we started that I was a high school teacher for 13 years. And outside of that, I own a consulting company. So I have spent my time traveling, doing like workshops where I teach kids how to write and just motivation through overcoming your personal traumas, sharing my story. And so the biggest thing is that I've always recognized that with children who look like me, they have to have the element of relatability and somebody who absolutely believes in them.
Yes.
One of the most exciting parts of this has been that after 13 years in a row in the classroom, I have been fortunate enough to help at this point one of my formerly mentored students and one of my just a classroom student I taught, who are both in the process. One has published their book and one is working on a book. And having a student as well that is actually did a TED talk and he has a book. And so the honor has always been in hearing the stories from them that say my experience with you, my experience in your classroom, recognizing my potential makes a difference. And so when it comes to our children in predominantly Black communities being visible, I heard you talk a lot about all of the or several of the Greek organizations having a publicly engaged role, having parents who are showing up, and all of those things making a difference in the lives of the kids and ultimately the community. That's what makes people come back when they know that they have support there, they know they have opportunities to grow. That is what will make people come back. And I love to hear you say that because it's so important. I think we forget just how important it is to show our children the value in where we are if we want them to come back, and not just come back, but to be fruitful and to have the potential to be the real leaders.
Yes, ma'am.
Of the
Yes,
next
ma'am.
generation. So I remember when you dropped that video, I was so excited about it because that's completely up my alley. Is seeing the kids actually have the opportunity to get a firm direction, but then to be put into that leadership position. I love
Yes.
it. I love it.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
and you, girl, I'm sorry, I'm doing all the talking, honey, but I just get
No,
all
I
excited.
love it. I need it
So my,
too.
my other question is, in lieu of what's going on with the building of the Black Wall Street, how have you all also been able to kind of create this bridge between your school system and your community-based initiatives? How has that worked?
To be honest, I think that that's something that the community is still fine tuning. I know that there has been like a lot of focus on that because that's probably one of the biggest concerns that either prevents people from staying here or wanting to move here is the education, of course, and that makes sense. Their kids are the future. And so there's been a lot of movement to invest in teacher education, teacher certification, like to go the extra mile with that and to introduce more community programming. I don't think that I'll be the best person to, completely answer that question, but I know that that has been one of the
It
major
is a part.
focuses
I
of
love
the
it.
community.
I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome. At the end of the day, being willing to invest is the biggest thing. That there
Yes.
are so many people who will say, "Well, this is not a problem." Well, we don't. I don't really see that. We already use this. but those things are not really bringing the results that we need to see. And
Right.
so what has to happen is we have to open our eyes and realize there are issues that exist in order
Yeah.
to start working on correcting those problems and moving forward. So I like that. Okay, so I'm excited about this question. I
Okay.
had a chance to let you know beforehand that I live here in Northeast Louisiana, specifically the city of Monroe. And we have so many kids who leave Monroe and go to UAPB.
Hmm.
And that was instantly one of the things that definitely made me say I have to reach out to her, because a lot of kids from here, honestly, who normally would not get an opportunity. Um, I remember specifically, I had a student who at the time was not even considering going to college, and he was in band. He
Hmm.
changed his mind, submitted an application to UAPB. Not only did you all accept him, but they gave him a scholarship. He
Hmm.
is now getting ready to graduate with his PhD.
Oh, that is
So I
amazing.
yes, I really love UAPB, and it's my mission. I haven't even been to the campus before, but I actually put it on my board this year of places to go and see, because we had so many children from this community who have gone to that school and got an opportunity to move forward with their education. So, with that being said, a lot of parents are always concerned about their children being so far away. Pine Bluff is about 2 hours and 15 minutes away from Monroe, which is not very far. But, honey child, let me tell you something. In this community, baby, if their babies can stay here, a lot of people want to keep them here. But
Yeah.
they feel more comfortable when, if they leave, they go to places that are not very far away. And
Right.
UAPB is one of those places that is actually not very far away. So
Yeah.
I would like to say, um, how can your community offer comfort to parents who worry about sending their kids across state lines? Because your school really does create an open place for a lot of kids to to get on their feet, and for kids who just want to come to a good school.
Yeah.
So how can they feel comforted about what's going on in your community and what their kids can experience?
Yes, ma'am. So, even though I went to school in Arkansas, I might as well have went to another state because even in Arkansas, at the time, especially at the time when I went to UAPB, this was before everybody was talking about HBCUs. So it's like you're going to Pine Bluff, you're going to HBCU. You smart. You need to be going da 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 da. So like I might as well have been going to Mars for my community. And when I got there, none of the rumors that I heard were true. At least not in my experience. Now I was raised not to go in places where I don't need to be, So of course I avoided some of that, but the community welcomed me with open arms. I have so many community mothers, community grandmothers. I
Absolutely.
know so many pastors. If you
Mhm.
get to know people, you can know like the police chief and the mayor and the judges by name, and they'll call you. They feed the college students, especially the churches. The churches look out for the college students. You can't be hungry if you know a church because they they will take care of you.
Yes,
Yes, and then
yes,
the student body, with it being an HBCU, especially when students come from communities like Monroe or other communities where they're like majority black, or even just states like Louisiana, other southern states, there's typically a big population of people from that same state or from those same communities. And so it won't feel like you're not at home. It will feel like a home away from home for a lot of
absolutely.
people. So
Absolutely. I love that, to say a home away from home. And considering that, we're in this Bible Belt area. Honey, when you said you can always show up to a church and get that good Sunday plate, that baked chicken, that potato salad, and those green beans. Because as college students, honey, we don't care. You don't have to give us too much, honey. We just want to be fed.
Mhm.
So I absolutely love that, and saying that everybody can know the mayor by name. It's not
Yeah.
as if you're in a place where you feel distant,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
you know that you're safe when you know even your leadership is open to you, open to you. And so when people send their kids away, it creates a sense of familiarity by saying, this reminds me of home, or this reminds
Yes.
me of when I went where I went to school, and things like that. And that's really, really important. I like that. I like that. And I guess I want to ask as well, when we talk about the university, how is the university um, engaged in the community? And how has that helped to keep people in the city? So how was the university engaged in Pine Bluff, and how has the Black Wall Street movement helped to keep graduates in the city?
Hmm. So I think that UAPB is very involved in the community. Like the band, they'll perform at high school games sometimes.
Oh,
The
that's
dancers
nice.
will, yeah, the dancers will perform. I was on the Royal Court. We have to speak to the different schools and read to them. The fraternities and sororities also do that. Sometimes they'll stroll for the kids. You know, the kids love to see them, us in our letters. And so, in fact, if you are a student at the university and you are in an organization, especially a Greek organization, you are required to do community service. And a lot of that community service involves, the students in, the public schools in Pine Bluff, or like community cleanups and just different things like that. So there's almost like an obligation as far as that to be involved in the community. Something that I would personally love to see a little bit more of is the industries in Pine Bluff to create a pipeline for the students. A
Oh,
lot of times the students get internships that are out of state, which isn't necessarily a bad
okay.
thing. It's
Right.
good to broaden your horizon, but it
Mm-hmm.
would be also nice, I think, and maybe it already happens and I just don't know about it, but if there was more of a pipeline for the students to
To
get
stay
more
in there.
acclimated with the city, because it was kind of a personal initiative of mine. To be honest, a lot of students don't really think to stay in the city after graduation unless they're teachers. A lot of teachers will stay, but I think that I decided to stay because I knew so much about the community, and I was like, I ain't finna go nowhere else. I love it here. That's because I knew about it. You know what I
I
mean?
love
So
it. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
I like that. Do you feel that as the community continues to strengthen what's going on with the Black Wall Street, that it will encourage more people to stay? Because I know when you talked about more than 100 Black businesses already
Right.
exist in the community. So do
Yes.
you think that that is a motivation for people to consider staying?
I think that it should be. I think that as we were expressing earlier, sometimes there's still a lot of lingering effects from the trauma that we've been through. And just honestly, from my experience, especially as younger Black people, we don't see the value of staying in our community. And I'm not trying to point the finger at anybody,
Hmm.
because again, I came from a community that was already diverse. And so had I not had that experience, I don't know if
Absolutely,
something different would have happened. But
absolutely,
I don't know that as a community we are really taught the value. And so
absolutely.
I think that first that will have to be something that's pushed a little bit more. Um, but I will say I do think that it helps, and especially when you see people like Deion Sanders at Jackson, and you see
Absolutely,
Beyonce
absolutely.
doing the Homecoming special on
Hmm.
Netflix. I think it's changing, but
Hmm.
change is slow. So
Let me tell you something. I believe that Beyonce, with the partnership with, I know Grambling was involved in that, and Deion Sanders has brought such an increase in spirit, not just in Jackson State, but in Louisiana, because we
right,
have a lot of Jackson State alumni here as well.
okay,
And so he has brought such an increase in spirit, and really also affected other people's commitment to Black athletics in
yes,
order to ensure that they are getting the treatment and opportunities that they deserve. And when you
right,
say that we have to start somewhere, that's absolutely it. Because we may have some people that still say, well, that's football, that's this, that's that. But we have to start somewhere. And
right,
then it continues to spread by saying, okay, now that we've been able to make, stronger improvements. And really, honestly, a lot of it comes down to seeing our own value. We don't
yes,
like to talk about that, but it really comes down to seeing our own value.
so
That's
true,
it. And having that boost and surge of energy, because there are a lot of things that go on that are just hype, and it comes down to a large part of it also being just us being able to also see our own value, and
yeah,
and re-envision how we can bring a lot of those things to life. And I
yes,
think that Deion Sanders and what Beyonce has done really brought a sense of Black people and Black schools knowing we are not overlooked, we are
right,
seen, we are
yeah,
visible. let's
yes,
let's 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 continue to excel in what we've already been doing.
right,
So I
right.
love, I like what you say there.
And
That's
then,
good.
Deion Sanders, he is also really helping to contribute to the economics of Jackson, Mississippi.
Facts.
I honestly, it's funny that I'm a business finance major. Maybe that's something that I should talk more about. But I think that if college students, if
Don't
college,
talk to us. Hit us with the numbers. That's what we need to know.
if college students, I want to, don't quote me. I gotta look up the article, but I want to say that I read an article that said Deion Sanders contributed $30 million to Jackson when it comes to ticket sales and just traveling and all of that stuff. So if we talk about the economics, and then people can see like, yeah, I want this luxury life, I want this high rise, I want the Tesla, but I can create that, and then I can get more of that money for myself and for my community. And if we talk about it from that perspective, you probably will see more college students staying in the community. So.
I think what you're also saying about predominantly Black communities as well is that you also have to be willing to stay and not necessarily find that the key to it is going to other communities, just because it looks like it has the glitz and glamour. There has to be that footwork done in your community as well to build that empire that you want, and it is very buildable, and that there are resources. Because look, for Deion Sanders to come, and then all of a sudden this $30 million has been able to be generated. That's the power of just one person, right?
Exactly.
But we all have that type of, we all have that power. We may not be the $30 million generator, but you might be the $1 million generator.
Exactly.
You might be the $500,000 generator, and that makes a huge difference. But you can't get to that $30 million generation of income in your community until you start by being that 500,000, 1 million. Look, I might only be you might start as being a $10,000 generator.
Right.
But your commitment is what takes that thing up.
That's right.
And I was thinking about like all the commercials and things like that Deion Sanders has been in. And like, it even shocks me. I'm like, he was even in the commercial with Nick Saban. And I'm like, wow, look how Mississippi and Alabama are getting this partnership and really kind of breaking the mold of how people view the Southern, right? The Southern part of our country. And they're on this national platform, in these commercials together and really bridging the gap between HBCUs and PWIs, which is something you definitely have to learn to do, is work to bridge that gap on that conversation. So when I saw the commercial where the two of them were in there together, I was like, this is so much more powerful than I think we recognize, because it's very symbolic and very important. And regardless of what people say, Alabama has a predominantly Black football team. And so many of the things, there are many things that Nick Saban can understand and offer, can offer and give players, but there are many things he cannot understand firsthand. There are many things that Deion can understand firsthand, even if where he is at currently is not able to give necessarily all of the same things yet. And so that's kind of bridging in the gap between those two. I'm like, I wonder what some of the commercial conversations have been like behind the scenes. And all I can think about is how the benefit of that flows down to these young Black men. So I like that. And I think that's where we get to talk about cross-cultural communities again.
Yes.
Kind of takes us back to that very topic. So I'm glad you kind of segued that in, girl. Girl, I'm talking to you like a sister, girl. I'm relaxing my language and everything. I'm like, hey, where's everybody got the tea, honey child, or margarita, girl? Because this is good. This is good, deep sisterhood talk and community talk.
Yes,
so one of your most interesting TikToks that I've seen was about the article in 24/7 Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.
And child, that was interesting because my state was all in the statistics.
And was.
Okay. And it's weird because when you have these conversations, people look at you like you're crazy. Especially for me when I transitioned up to where I am now and having lived in various parts of the state. It's always weird whenever I can see it and people really don't get it. And when I saw this in print, I was like, okay, I'm not surprised.
Right.
So 24/7 Wall Street, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lake Charles, and Shreveport were in the top 20 for most segregated cities. Monroe, Louisiana was number 6 on that list, and Pine Bluff was number 1 on that list.
Right.
Can you tell us what are group economics and why are they so important to segregated and predominantly Black communities? And let me clarify this. The issue is not that we promote segregation. If you've heard me talking at all, you know that I actually am not a person that is for segregation. I think the thing is that acknowledging that segregation exists and we have such a long road to go to conquer it. So in the meantime, what is it that we need to do to help communities that are on the side of the segregated line and are not getting the resources that they need? How do we start building the bridges to support them so that we are able to eliminate that line of demarcation and segregation in communities? So
Right.
I'm gonna ask that question again. What are, excuse me, what are group economics and why are they so important to segregated and predominantly Black communities?
Yeah, so I think you made an amazing point when you were saying we're not promoting segregation, we're just acknowledging that it exists. And so I think we have to start there because it's, nobody wants to promote segregation, not even Black people, right? But when we acknowledge that it exists, maybe we can see it as a unique opportunity. So maybe then it's kind of like I see places like Pine Bluff and Monroe as almost like Chinatowns, little Italies, little
I like
Cubas, but for Black people. And I think that if we see it that way, it's not like a, oh, that's the hood, that's dusty. It's like a, what makes
you
us
better
unique?
preach. You
What
better
can we,
preach.
market ourselves? Because honestly, like, let's keep it all the way real,
Come
okay?
on.
Black American culture sells everything. So let's sell
Preach.
ourselves. That's all.
Preach. Preach, Queen. Go ahead.
So I think if we see it as something unique that can be an opportunity rather than a setback, and then we start talking about that group economics, as you were saying, now it becomes, instead of these industries exploiting us, we can create those industries here. And I definitely am not against PWIs, but we already have an HBCU in Pine Bluff. So now let's get those Black sports up
Absolutely.
and running, because it's just some things about an HBCU game you can't get everywhere else. You can't get that band. You can't get those fans because they're at another
Absolutely.
level.
Absolutely.
So I think that when we start talking about things like that, it becomes more of an experience to be had rather than like a setback or a burden on our communities.
Honey, I went to a PWI and I have been to many HBCU homecomings and child, I enjoy every minute of it. And
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? So absolutely I agree the atmosphere is infectious. And it's not about, oh, there's a party, but it's about the cultural experience,
Yes,
right?
yes,
It's about the cultural, just a big moment to really immerse yourself in the cultural experience of it. And so I absolutely agree with you. If what we have is here and it's working, why not continue to push that thing forward? And I
right.
wanted to just kind of go back to what we talked about a little bit regarding segregation, because it's so interesting. I had a person the other day say, I wish we would have remained segregated. And I say, I hate that, because most of the time we hear those comments, it's because we feel that we are not safe in
Mm,
an integrated environment.
mm,
And that's the hurtful part about it, is that we feel unsafe in an integrated environment. And we should not. And I told somebody, I said on that post, I said, we invented almost everything there is, so why should we have to be segregated?
right,
We
right,
have built almost everything that exists in this country, so why should we have to be segregated?
right,
Because we have rights to technically everything that our people did.
right,
But the truth of it is that these issues exist even if we don't desire for them to. And
right,
so, with that being said, what is it that we can do to continue to build where we are,
right,
and until society continues to move forward? And I
right.
do believe it takes work. But let me tell you something: this new generation of young Black folks, and I'm not that old, but I'm like, they are not playing. They're not wasting time. They're saying straight up, if you don't want to let me at the table, I will build my own. I will build it like tomorrow, because I'm not
Mhm.
playing. If you don't want to, I will build the table tomorrow. And so I
Right,
think that's also the power of, because we're seeing it among like the Black community as well. And that's why people don't have a problem with saying, if you don't welcome me into this space, I'm going to make sure that the space where I am thrives. And
right.
that's what I
That's
think is
good.
that I definitely feel that about the Black Wall Street communities that are building.
Yes,
We're learning what it takes to make our money work, learning what it takes to build for our children to have healthy, safe, loving environments, and saying that I'm not going to spend so much of my time having to fight this thing. I
right.
am going to make sure that what I do instead is build where I am.
Yes,
And I
yes,
like when you say that.
yes.
So here's my next one. One of my favorite TikToks by you. is about easy ways to rebuild your community without a lot of footwork.
Yes.
I watched that one several times. I really like that one. So I would like for you to share with us what are some of the ways that you shared and how do they contribute to rebuilding your community?
For sure. So really the easiest ways just have to do with our mindset. Um, if you if you haven't attended an HBCU, or if you don't have kids who are in a local public school that needs help, go to some of the games. Support, wear the paraphernalia of the school mascot and just lift that morale so that people can decide to give it a chance. If all we're saying is negativity, negativity, then that's all we're going to see about those things. But a lot of kids are affected. The kids that go to HBCUs that need more funding are affected when they don't have the resources. The kids in
Absolutely.
the public schools are affected when they don't have the support, and especially the younger kids, they internalize those things that affects their behavior, and a lot of times they're the ones that end up being the ones that society calls the troublemakers because they didn't get that love and support at a young age. So the school thing, I think that is huge. And then like there are challenges in the hood. So I don't blame anybody who feels like it's a good point, but I'm not ready to move there yet, right? So for people who aren't ready to take that next step yet, go support some of the businesses in the hood, and they have better food anyways. So like
Facts. Facts.
take a picture of what you're eating and share it, because with a lot of people who they're not in the hood, a lot of businesses don't stay open very long, and sometimes they need a little bit of customer service help. We're not going to avoid that conversation, but bear with them just like we bear with Gucci and like we bear with H&M. When they have those
Mhm.
racist scandals, we don't stop shopping
Now,
with
come on, girl. Come on. Come on, honey.
them. So just bear with our people. There's a lot we all have to unlearn, and it can be easier said than done. I have also had my negative experiences, but we are a family. Family is just, we're gonna get on each other's nerves sometimes. So really, it's I think a lot about the morale. The more that we have the conversations and support where we can, right? Baby steps. The more that the people in those communities will see themselves, as who they actually are, and I think they'll rise to that occasion. And then it opens the door for us to reconnect. People like myself who were removed from the community but have a love to go back and just needed
Absolutely.
that push to get started, or people who moved away for valid reasons
Mhm.
but maybe they can come back home now. We have to introduce that conversation. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm laughing as I think about the whole customer service bit because what you said is so true. Because, honey, we'll go to all kind of places where they give us attitude all day long, and we'll make passes for them. We'll find the comedy in it. But when
Yes.
it comes to our people, we'll blast or drag, and so we have to do much better. And like I tell people all the time, I say, I'm sorry, I'm scratching my shoulders. This is so bad. I'm sorry. It's really itchy.
Look,
Um,
I'm just scratching my head.
I tell people all the time, when it comes to customer service for me, if I have an experience that I'm really not digging it, I address it on the spot and I don't
Mhm.
have to be rude about it. I've told people, look, I don't know what the energy is today, but I hope you have a better day tomorrow because how you treat me is not cool. And you
Right.
can say it just like that and make a difference and leave. You don't have to, feel like you have to get real emotionally involved. Sometimes people don't recognize that they're projecting that energy, or
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to address it so that
Yes.
people can do a self check. That's
Yes.
not okay. I don't like that. I came and had my food today. I would like to have a positive experience. And honey, I'm going out the door. But
Right.
that thought, I mean, and it's just something small, it is not to say you're obligated. You are not obligated to do anything. But you know what? I think about what when you leave, you're gonna call everybody anyway and tell them how mad you were. So if you would just tell the person how you feel in a very calm way and address it, a lot of times it'll be nothing when you leave out the door. You'll forget to even call everybody and complain or put
Right.
it on Facebook and tag
Right.
65 people.
Mhm. Right.
And
Right.
we write our complaints to everybody else to let them know,
Right.
right? We can
Right.
express that same, vocal experience as well when we visit places like that who may not, provide us with the best service possible. But I
Right.
think in the same token, we have to also ensure that we're good patrons to minority
Yes.
businesses because we don't get a lot of the same resources. We don't
Right.
have a lot of the same access to things, and we
Right.
still try to make things affordable to people. And
Right.
so we have to try to ensure that we're not complaining about prices that we will pay across town for Sally Sue, but don't want to pay to come over here where somebody's having to pay expensive building rent, can't afford wholesale yet, so maybe
Yeah.
trying to get stuff one at a time or haven't gotten in the loop or whatever those things are.
Yes.
So we have to also be willing, if we're going to go over there, it does not involve complaining. If we're going to patronize a Black professional, we're not complaining about their prices whenever they have the credentials and resources that they deserve for it. Either you're going to choose to be a part of it or not, but not
Right.
belittling them and making them feel like less as an entrepreneur. Because we want to see Black businesses continue to move forward. But there are a
That's
whole lot of business out there that have a lot more resources and access to things that our people have, or even if they've had businesses passed down to them.
right.
Honey, Rick and Bob and whoever else having a business passed down to them is not the same as our homegirl over here having to do a startup
Right.
on her own. And so
Right.
we, I think we have to recognize that too. And I like definitely what you said for us. Anything else you had to say? I know.
No, that's real. Like you said, we just got to be patient with our people. We're not starting from the same playing field. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's so important. So I love that you've been talking about Black businesses and you even talked about Black neighborhoods having businesses and things like that. That was really exciting for me to hear. I'm in the loop of knowing a lot of Black entrepreneurs. I'm a Black entrepreneur. And, I said it with a lot of humility. I'm like, oh, I'm the Black entrepreneur, but I am as well. But I know a lot of people as well who are Black entrepreneurs and are moving forward in Black businesses, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so Northeast Louisiana and Shreveport, which is Northwest Louisiana, Ruston, they all have a lot of Black businesses. What would you say to those who are looking to expand their businesses and based on tonight's conversation are now thinking about Pine Bluff?
I would tell them to first come check out the city, get a feel for it, feel the vibe, feel the love, just see how you feel being boots on the ground in the community, right? Because I think that no matter how successful a community is, you have to want to be there. I've been to California and people love California. I didn't quite like California, right? So used to get a feel for it for themselves. But then after they get a feel for it, I would tell them to connect with the city offices. I would tell them to connect with the Alliance and the Chamber of Commerce. And I would just tell them to visit the library, visit the community amenities, and try to get acclimated with the community leaders. They make themselves very available because we are looking for innovation in industry. So I would tell them to visit, I would tell them to get acclimated, and I would tell them to contact city offices and the Chamber of Commerce.
Off the top of your head, what are three of the most popular places people can visit when they come to Pine Bluff?
Okay, the art space, the casino, the aquatic center, and you said three?
Yes. So that
Okay,
was
yeah.
three. Yep, the art space,
There's
the
so many
casino.
other places
Yeah.
though. We got some good food. We got Gratitude Restaurant. We got
Oh,
Indigo
yeah. So name the
Coffee.
restaurants, honey, because that's my favorite spot to go.
Ooh, I feel bad limited it to three is so many things, but
Go
yeah.
ahead and name more. That's fine. Shout them out because I
Okay.
love the idea of the art space and everything. That's cool. Go ahead and share more.
Okay, yes. So the art space is pretty new. They have plays there. They have an art museum there. It's really nice. They always have a lot of Black artists from around the country in their exhibits. I think I already mentioned the casino. The convention center sometimes has music. There's a bar downtown. It's called RJ's. They have live music. Indigo Blue Coffee House that I mentioned earlier has live music. Um, so many good places. So many good places.
Awesome.
You can
Awesome.
check out my TikTok for more examples as well.
I'm going to definitely put the link to your TikTok as well. And so this is what I was going to share. We have people that tune in from all over the country, but Pine Bluff is only 2 hours and about 15 minutes away from Northeast Louisiana. So
Yeah,
what makes Pine Bluff a good weekend getaway or a good girls trip?
absolutely. So, for the girls' trip, I will say that there is a new Black-owned spa, so you could definitely come out, support them. They have yes, and it's beautiful in there. They also offer yoga some days. Um, There's the casino, which that's not really my vibe, but they have really good food in there, even if you don't want to spend any money.
Child, we love that casino food, honey.
Yes, yes, they have. I mean, just
We
five
love
star
the casino food.
there. I heard the drinks are really good too, so check out that
Ding, ding,
casino.
ding, ding, ding,
Yes. I would say if there's a HBCU game being played, definitely check out the sports.
ding.
We have a pretty good, vibe in the whether it's the gym or the field. And then support the local black owned businesses. There's a lot of black owned boutiques. Something that people say that we don't have enough of is like the mainstream clothiers and things like that. But we have a lot of black owned businesses. There's a black owned tuxedo shop, some black owned upscale boutiques for women. I don't know, I'm drawing blanks right now, but there might not be your like name brand places, but like if you come with the intention of supporting black businesses and getting to know a community that might look like yours or just one that's building, definitely come check it out.
Absolutely. What I'm really excited about, what's being really interesting, is to listen to a lot of the stuff that Pine Bluff has going on that also mirrors a lot of the entrepreneurs we know we have here. We have a black tuxedo shop here as well. We have a lot of black boutiques, some really thriving ones here. And so I think it would also be really cool. I hope some of them get to tune in, even if they would be able to come to Pine Bluff and maybe, meet other people and kind of see how the two communities are mirroring, because I think that's really, really awesome. Um,
Yes.
so I want to also just ensure that we understand the essence of why this conversation was so important tonight, because what Pine Bluff is doing is actually aligning with what several other communities are doing across this country, which is recognizing the value of majority Black communities and seeking basically to reestablish and rebuild them and strengthen them so that the economic power continues to grow and expand there. And I think that's very important. And I love what you said, which is nobody's saying that you have to feel obligated to be here, or that this community is all Black by choice. It happens to be all Black, and we want to ensure that the opportunities are given in this community just like you have everywhere else. Black communities deserve the right to thrive. Black people deserve the right to live well. Black people deserve the right to follow their dreams. And we are in a society and era now where we can make that happen. So, I want to thank you so much for what you've been doing on TikTok, because it has really, really impacted me. And being able to start reaching out to you all more to actually come on and talk more about what you're doing has really been exciting. And I was so, so happy when you agreed to come on, because I have admired what you're doing to promote your community and to show Black pride in Black communities. We really, 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 really need that. So I appreciate it. And to understand that there is power in us. There's power in our numbers, there's power in our economic dollars, and there is power in our ability to push the next generation forward. And I'm very, very optimistic about the future of Pine Bluff. And honey, I've already made my plans, so I'll be coming to visit.
Oh, let me know. Let me know. I would love to meet you.
Contact with you. So I'm definitely making plans to visit like very, very soon. So I'll be connecting with you when I get a chance to come out there, because I'm not a person who likes to talk about it. Any place that are within arm's reach, I like to go ahead and make the plan and make it happen. So so right quick, can you share I already dropped your IG handle, but can you go ahead and go through your social media handles with us so we can make sure people follow you?
Yes, it's Afro _ Angie _ on all platforms, and on YouTube it's just Afro Angie.
Absolutely. And she has a pretty cool YouTube page as well, so you guys can follow more of the information she's doing and subscribe to her channel. You can follow her on TikTok. And the thing about YouTube is, of course, you guys know, if you're not on TikTok or if you're not on Instagram, because we do have some older people that tune in, a lot of times it's easier for you to go through Gmail and follow her on YouTube as well. So any of those options will work, but I advise that you really stay on board with what she's doing. And summer is coming. And folks will be looking for places to go. And sometimes it's just the weekend. Sometimes you're looking for somewhere to go, long-term on vacation. So she has shared some awesome information here tonight. I want to thank Angelica for coming on today, aka Afro Angie. I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you follow her. I want to thank you for the wisdom and insight, and just, girl, you made me feel just so warm and good on the inside to speak so lovingly about our community and what our community is doing and what we can keep doing to move forward. Is there anything else you would like to share tonight? Any forthcoming events you want to tell us about? A tagline you want us to take with us as we move forward?
Um, Man, I can't think of any events. I actually have planned to make a TikTok and a YouTube video with some upcoming events because I get a lot of those questions as it relates to the summer. But I will say we did have a tour. They came last July, and the wife was biracial and the husband was white, and they loved it. They stayed for a week. 2 of those days, they did visit the state's capital, which is Little Rock, which is about a 40-minute drive from Pine Bluff, and then they also visited Hot Springs, where I'm from, which is about an hour and a half. But for 4 days, they were in Pine Bluff. And at first, they were scared because they stopped at a gas station when they first got in town, and they met a man. He wasn't black. I think he was an Arab. But he told the husband that this wasn't his town. He wasn't supposed to be here. And so at first they were like, "Ooh, I need to get back. I already didn't heard the rumors about Pine Bluff. Let me get out the gym." But once my husband and I met them and we showed them around the city, they loved it and they had a great time. They plan on coming back again. So please take a chance on Pine Bluff. So far, it is worth your time.
I love the way that you immediately debunked that and made sure to take control of that situation and let people know that this is a community for everybody. I love that because a lot of people do start to feel that way, and we will have people that will feel that out because they personally have their own stereotypes that they're projecting about the community. So I absolutely love that you took control of that, and you and your husband said, "We're going to show you people who are making a difference." So I love it, absolutely. I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. And I look forward to talking with you in the future. And honey, I'll be in touch because I'm definitely going to come out to Pine Bluff.
Come on down, cousin.
Yes. You guys have a good night and take care.
Thank you.